So pre-classroom conversation, I came to the understanding that maybe, just maybe, my anecdotes I tell a little bit more frequently than I realize, But I guess that makes sense because this is the third class that everybody's had with me. So even if I tell my anecdotes only once a semester, this is the third time you've heard them. So it makes me chuckle because I used to give my dad such a hard time, especially in his older years when he got into his 60s and 70s, is that I give him a hard time about how often he would repeat the same stories. Like there were literal little stories that I'd read a dozen times and he would tell them just kind of like saying, "Oh, this is something that they don't know about." It's like, now, yeah, we could tell you verbatim what you're going to say at this point. So you're just going to have to indulge me. I'm going to have to throw this caution out for all classes, all of my students that take me, is to say, as I get older, I'm going to be more prone to repeat the same stories because I'm not going to remember all of my anecdotes. I'm only going to remember a few, and those are going to be the ones that I repeat over and over again. But yeah, I actually have some anecdotes for today because today we're going to be doing advanced Excel functions. So a little bit of background on this particular task. I took over advanced AIS in 2019, and the first year was kind of a mess because I had 9 days to prepare for that advanced AIS course. So the instructor who was teaching advanced AIS, he's long gone. Nobody knows who he is, but he left right 9 days before the semester, and Dr. Caden said, "I need you to teach advanced AIS," and I was like, "All right, do I have a choice in the matter?" He said, "No." All right, so okay, that was kind of the discussion. Even back then, Dr. Caden was bossing me around, and so. I didn't really do much that first semester because I didn't really have any structure to it. But the second semester, I put a lot of structure into it, a lot of effort and thought into it. And we did about half of our work in Excel, and then we tried to do some work in Alteryx, but Alteryx failed miserably for like 3 years in a row. It wasn't until recently that we actually got Alteryx into a stable client. But Excel was a very big part of this. And so I decided I wanted to do kind of a wrap-up thing for our Excel assignments, and that's our product here. So if you know anybody who graduated in 2000, I guess it was the Mac program in 2021, you may recognize some of the names that are in here. I put student names, not, well, I shouldn't say I put student names. I put first initial and last name, as well as some of the faculty who were still on staff at the time and faculty who were retiring at the time. And the whole idea is that I wanted to do some context about how to do some tasks in Excel, how to use Excel for particular tasks, to wrap it up with some of the information security stuff that we've talked about, and also to do my favorite thing, which is an escape room. So I call this the Advanced Excel Functions Escape Room. You'll see this talked about here. Now, is it a real escape room? Not really. It's kind of a dynamic puzzle. But at the time, any little chore or tool I was putting together, I called it an escape rooms because that's just the way I was. And so what are we going to be doing today? Well, I'm going to leave that large part of that for you to discover. I will give you a little bit of guidance, just a little bit of guidance as far as what you need to do. But for the most part, this is going to be up to you to figure out. It's like a true escape room. There's going to be some tips and tricks to point you in the right direction. And if you get really stumped and really can't find a direction forward, you can ask me, what do I need to do next? But for the most part, it's going to be on you to figure out. So a little bit of background on this. This is supposed to be you doing consulting work for a restaurant named the Tax Shelter. Now, it's not as funny now because the Tax Shelter was basically the entity that all of my assignments were in the 2020 Advanced AIS class. We are going to see the Tax Shelter as a restaurant again in this course, just kind of a running gag. But the owner's name is Alan Davis, which you should recognize that name because I've talked about him enough. He's basically Dr. Caden if you took out all the niceness. Okay, took out all the pleasantness. Just a curmudgeonly tax attorney who worked here at Truman State up until December of 2020, and he was oftentimes the foil for all of my jokes. And so the whole background behind the tax shelter is that some AIS audit instructor ran him off of Truman State, which is actually in retrospect more true than I realized. And he opened his own restaurant, and so this is the restaurant. And he's doing some work and he finds these series of items here, a piece of paper with these items on it. Now, there's a little bit of a clue there that you don't know what they correspond to, but they appear to be transaction codes, which is a big hint. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to actually unlock the workbook, which you notice there's a workbook assigned here. There's only 2 tabs, and you're asking, is that enough for us to solve the problem? The answer is no. 2 tabs is not enough for you to solve the problem, so there's probably more detail there. You just have to figure out how to access it. Then you need to decrypt the transaction codes, figure out what those transactions apply to. You can kind of see that on the second tab in the order listing that we have several transactions. I think upwards of 200 something transactions. So there's a correspondence to the transaction codes there. And then this is the busy work. This is where you're going to be doing some controls testing, albeit through a little bit more of a filter. So you're going to be looking at particular controls that are in place here, and you're going to have to determine whether or not those particular transactions met those. And then you have to develop a report saying which transactions violated those items and which ones did not. Now, I will tell you, out of the 20 transactions that you have to identify, some of them will have controls violations and some of them will not. Now, how many is that number? I know that you're angling, so like you're going to say, I really want to know a specific number, and I'm going to say, I'm not going to tell you that number. Okay, I'm going to give you that fear of uncertainty, like a true escape room. You're going to have to just do your best work. Couple of notes on this. You do need to prepare a report on your findings. I give you some specific tasks. This is kind of a roundabout about how we use Excel analysis and develop reports. So if you want to use Excel for your reporting, you can. You can provide a separate report. But please do not, this is important, please do not submit this workbook that I have provided to you as part of your report. I know what's in the workbook. I actually created the workbook. Okay, so I'm very familiar with the content of it. What you are going to submit is you're going to submit your Ultima report on your findings. It does need to include a tabular or visualization analysis in there, which you can use Excel on either one of those to prepare that. Now, it's not required that you create a separate workbook for analysis, but if you do so, then it needs to be a workbook of your own creation and not just a variation of that. Using the workbook that I provided you and showing how you unlocked it and all the impressive tasks, that's great, but that's not sufficient to show you tabular analysis. Tabular analysis should be either like a pivot table or some other type of function that allows you to visualize the data more effectively. With that, I'm going to let you work. We're going to reconvene closer into class after you've had a chance to experience this. But your first task is to unlock the workbook. So I'm going to let you all stew on that for a little bit. All right, so from what I can tell, most people are making reasonable progress, and it looks like most of the class has got the workbook unlocked. If you're still struggling with the unlock of the workbook, keep in mind that my goal in this class is to make sure that you know advanced Excel functions both backwards and forwards. Okay, I realize that was a bad pun. I apologize, guys. Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be the key to understanding and getting that. And again, most everybody has, but if you're still struggling with that, make sure you know your functions well. Now, if you are to the point that you're doing a transaction analysis, there's a few hints or a few tips that I want to give you. Not necessarily hints, but tips. First and foremost, as you're creating your transaction fields, I strongly, strongly recommend that you create a transaction field for every single one of your records, not just the 20 that you're trying to identify. That will make your life much easier if you do that. So plan on making a transaction field. Now, as you started to learn about what this was, you noticed there was a breakdown and the individual components or pieces of this. So let's talk really quickly about what it is that you need to be identifying. So there's a few notes here. First of all, take advantage of the internet because the internet's your friend. All right. For example, if you need to find out what the abbreviations of states are, you might be able to find that somewhere online. So that's just keep a piece of note. If you have to do conversions of numbers and they're only single-digit number, please make sure you keep that into account when you're doing the conversions. But part of the code, it looks like there's supposed to be 2 digits, but only 1 digit is present. That usually means that it's preceded by a 0 and was translated to a number. So that's something to keep in mind. And probably the most compelling one I can tell you is to keep in mind that dates are just numeric conversions. That's something we've talked about in a lot of our courses, but numeric conversions. So 1/1/1900 is day 0, okay? Or I think that's actually maybe day 1. No, day 0, I don't know. But if that means you can do numeric conversions of fields, then you can figure out what the first day of 2030 is as well, if you do a numeric conversion of that. And that makes finding out information relative to that fairly straightforward. So I'm not going to say more than that because that would make things a little bit too easy, but just keep in mind that dates are numeric conversions and you can use that to your advantage in your analysis. If you're really struggling and can't make any more progress on this, let me know. But from my experience has been is that there's a little bit of struggle, then the ball pops on, and then groups will work together, and we'll figure it out. And then it's just the busy work after that. But I'm more than happy to try to help you guide you along the way. Until then, I'm going to wrap it up here. We're going to start some more cybersecurity stuff. I think NIST cybersecurity framework on Monday, and I believe this is due on Friday. So best of luck to you, and I'll see you all then.